All right, this week we've had some miserable weather in Chicago, as you can tell. So I'm going to apologize for the state of this Cadillac Lyriq that I've been driving. It's been cold, it's been snowy, it's just been all around awful, and it's starting to rain right now. So in this video, I'm not going to talk about the cleanliness of this vehicle. I apologize. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a general walk around and tell you what the Cadillac Lyriq is. Then I'm going to give you 5 good things and 5 bad things. My name is Jill Ciminillo with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Let's take a closer look right now. Alright, so I just want to jump right in with an exterior walk around of the Cadillac Lyriq. And this is a level 1 model, so it's kind of a base model, and it doesn't have a lot of extras or options on it. The base price for this vehicle is $59,000. Now, as tested, I said there wasn't a lot of options, but as tested, this is about $66,000. So it does add all-wheel drive, and it added, a couple of other little things, but nothing major. I think the paint was also an option, but all-wheel drive, I want to say, was about $3,500. This has all-wheel drive, and contrary to what the license plate says, it does not have 28 horsepower. This has been a source of humor pretty much the entire test week. It has 500 horsepower. It's 500 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque. Now, this has the dual motor, and because it is all-wheel drive, it only has a range of 307 miles. The rear-wheel drive version, I guess I should say, has a range of 314 miles. Now, I was never able to get it up to 100% charge, I'll be honest with you, because the charging times in this frozen tundra wasteland kind of suck. So I was not able to get out of a charging station in less than 32 minutes. And in fact, there was one time that I went from 22% to 80% of battery, and it took me an hour and 2 minutes. Over the entire time that I had the vehicle, I did plug into the my wall jack, and that kept me pretty good for my city driving. But when I drove to Indianapolis, I had to stop 3 times to bring it up to charge, and spent 2 hours at charging stations and spent more than $100. So certainly a great vehicle for your day tripping, to around city, but for longer drives, that's where an electric vehicle doesn't necessarily make sense. Let's step inside and check out the interior, because I think this is another place this vehicle really shines. They've done a great job with the interior accents and trimmings and some of the features. I really like this open console area for bags or purses or takeaway groceries. I don't know. But they've done a great job with the interior features. And we'll just power it up and do a quick look before I give you some driving impressions. So let's pop this screen out so you get the full effect of this beautiful LED, I think it's OLED actually, screen. And you have, a little bit of a control menu here that controls how your behind the wheel gauges look. And then you have your large screen here for your map, which fills out the whole screen. Now, I am going to point out, this is an Android-based Google Maps system, which will get an initial trial period for free. But eventually, if you want to use this system, if you want to update the maps, if you want to connect this to your car so that you know how much range you have when you are on your way someplace, that is going to be a subscription fee. And I don't like that. That kind of makes the do not like list. So I love the trim pieces. You know, they've done a really good job with accents and with, you know, just the overall feel of the controls and features in this vehicle. I like the actual buttons here that you can push. And I mean, you've got this very tactile feel with a little bit of a click that I really like. And then, these are the air vents. It's funny, my husband was trying to use this as a volume dial, and he's like, why isn't the volume going up? And I'm like, oh, honey, that actually is for your air vents. But I like how it feels. I like the sound. So a lot of good tactile pieces here and accent pieces. Plus, I really like the seating surfaces and the trim pieces here. They've done a good job. I like the blue accent on this console area, from the beveled edges on the cup holders. Just, I don't know. I think they've done a really nice job with the interior and just all of the trim pieces. And then carried on into the back seat, you have some nice seating finishes and accents back there as well. And I will point out, you do have this quite lovely panoramic roof. Now, this is not an opening sunroof. It is actually just a glass roof, but it lets some light in, and it really gives the cabin an open, airy feeling, and just, I don't know, adds to the overall look and feel of the vehicle. All right, before we get into the 5 good things and 5 bad things, I just want to get into some brief driving impressions. I really liked driving the Cadillac Lyriq. I drove around town. I drove 3 hours to Indianapolis and then 3 hours back. And this is just a really comfortable car. It's kind of a small SUV size, but I'll be honest with you, it looks more like a wagon. And it has a very solid planted feel because this is an electric car. So you have the battery, which is heavy underneath, and that really helps with traction and with control in snow driving. Plus, I was using the one pedal driving, and what I discovered is when you're in that really slippery, snowy stuff, when you hit your brakes, the car tends to skid. But if you are using the one pedal driving and you just gently lift off the accelerator, no skidding. So I don't know. I like how this drives. I think that it is very smooth. It is very comfortable, and it does a really good job both in the city and on the highway. It has 500 horsepower, which is plenty of propulsion, plenty of acceleration to get you to merge with highway traffic and to help you pass on the highway. So I like all of those things. And once I get into the good things, bad things, we'll talk a little bit more about cold weather range, because that is certainly one of the things that I didn't like, but it's not specific to this vehicle. All electric vehicles experience cold weather range loss, and that's just the state of affairs, period. Gasoline vehicles experience it too, but you don't notice it because, by the way, there's a gas station on every corner. So overall, driving impressions of the Cadillac Lyriq are, 2 thumbs way up. All right, I think you have to kick off the like list on the 5 good things with the idea that this is a really smooth handling vehicle. It is fast, it is fun, it is peppy, and it just handles really well, both on pavement and in the snow. Very confident in the snow, and certainly as I was driving through rainstorms, snowstorms, sleet storms, definitely appreciated that. Next, I want to point out that in addition to being really well accented, these seats are super comfortable. I was very surprised by that because usually I don't like Cadillac seats. I think they feel like I'm sitting on cardboard, but these seats were really comfortable even for a long drive with, a half an hour pit stop to charge. So love the comfortableness of these seats. The third thing on the like list is going to have to be the overall attention to detail, from the really nice finishes to just the accent pieces to the overall comfort to, the color options to the large screen and the native navigation system that fills out the whole portion of the screen. I just think they've done a really nice job with accent pieces and features, and that brings us to one of the things I really like. I'm going to have to show you on the exterior of the vehicle. And that is this right here. So in addition to being really well designed, this is what opens the rear hatch. And I just think that's pretty cool. And then of course you have your power liftgate here to close it. Now the fourth thing, let me see if I can get my numbers and my fingers to match up. Now the fourth thing on the list is going to be the overall spaciousness of this rear seat. Now granted, I am only 5 feet tall, I am on the short side of things, but I did have a passenger back here who was 5'11", and he specifically commented on the fact that he had enough legroom, and he sat behind himself. So looking at somebody who is 5 feet tall, so I'm the average size of a 10-year-old, I have a lot of legroom here, and these seats are like kind of tilted back a little bit, so I have plenty of headroom. I would say I probably have, and that much, so I would say I probably have about 6 inches between my head and the roof. And my rear passenger, who was 5'11", said he had plenty of headroom as well. So overall, I think this rear space is done really well. It has air vents, it has USB ports, and it's generally pretty comfortable. And yeah, I could definitely sit back here. And the fact that you have this sunroof that lets light in, or the glass roof that lets light in, is also just really well done. So I think overall this back seat is pretty good. And finally, I think Cadillac has done a really good job with the lighting signature. So the door is locked right now, but if I unlock it, you can see how there's like a little bit of a welcome sequence that happens on the front. And then I just really like that, from the little teardrops that come down to just the overall sequence. Now, when I lock it, you have something similar, and you'll notice the door handles went in, and just kind of was like, all right, I'm done now. So, unlock. And lock. All right, there is actually a lot more to like on the Cadillac Lyriq than those 5 things, but that's just a starting point. So it is time to turn things around a little bit and dig into some of the things that I didn't like. So we're breaking into the 5 bad things on the list, and I'm just going to start with the overall quietness of this vehicle. Because there is no engine and no inherent white noise covering up just the outside noises that creep into the cabin, this vehicle is a little bit loud. Now, as you level up in the Cadillac Lyriq, maybe there's some acoustic glass and some more sound deadening materials that happen. But in this specific model, I found that driving on the highway, if you didn't have the radio on, you heard a lot of tire noise creeping into the cabin, and there was some wind noise that just was a little bit loud at times. And granted, snowstorm, rainstorms, windy area, so there was a lot going on. But I heard more than what I would normally hear, and that definitely got a thumbs down. Now, if you're a radio person, you probably won't notice it, but I'm typically the kind of person that drives with silence. Now, the next 2 things on the do not like list have to do with the screenage that we've got going on here. And the first thing I'm going to point out is something that is a little bit irksome in the Chevrolet Colorado, and General Motors brought it into the Lyriq as well, and that is going to be the fact that your lights are digital and there is no knob, dial, or anything hard for you to adjust your lights. Now, the good thing that they did here is they've made it a quick touch button on this single screen here. They didn't put it through this screen, so you do have the ability to do like the little quick touch option here to turn them off and on. Parking lights and all of that kind of stuff, but it is digital. There is no button or dial that will turn your headlights on or off. Now, I do get a lot of times people asking me, well, what about your brights? There's no option for your brights. Okay, so you know how you just push that forward? Yeah, that actually turns your brights on. So, there you go. Now, another thing that I don't like is all of the stuff that goes through the screen. So if you want to open your glove box, there's a button on the screen for that. And it happens to be the quick touch button right now, but if I were using some other things, this button goes away, and then you have to dig through this stuff to find that button. You also don't have the camera screen or a camera button anywhere here. You actually have to go into, so like if you're on your map and you want to look at your camera to see what's surrounding your vehicle, then you have to hit the home button and then you have to hit the camera button. There is no easy way to hit that button. There's no quick button or anything like that. You actually have to dig into the menus to hit that button, and I don't like that. So I don't like that some of the things are hidden in the screen here for you to do some of your operations. Now, the final thing that I don't like about the screen, so I guess I've kind of gotten like, 2 through, 3, 4, so I have maybe a little more than 5 things that I don't like. But the other thing that I don't like on this is the fact that your Apple CarPlay does not take up the whole screen. So like if you were looking at Apple Maps, you can see that it doesn't take up the entire screen, and that is kind of a problem to me. So I don't like that, because I really want this to fill up the whole screen, and it doesn't. Now, I will say I did discover that in Apple CarPlay there is something called background, so I was able to put a black background in here, but before I had a pink background, and that looked even more awful. So, full screen for that would be nice. You do have the full screen for the native navigation. You're just not going to have it for Apple CarPlay. Now, on the other side of that, Apple CarPlay is probably going away. General Motors is not going to have Apple CarPlay in its electric vehicles because they want you to use this native navigation system. So that won't be a problem for very long. But the other thing that I don't like about the native navigation system and the fact that you won't have Apple CarPlay is the fact that this right here is going to be a subscription. So the fact that you are going to have to pay to use this in the future, you will get a free trial for a period of time, but then eventually they're going to start charging you to use this, and that irks me, especially since they're taking away your Apple CarPlay. Now, before I close out this video, I do have to say there is one more thing about the Cadillac Lyriq that I don't like, and this is probably pushing me over the top of my 5 things. But I do have to talk a little bit about cold weather range loss, because it is not good. But obviously this is not specific to the Cadillac Lyriq. All EVs are going to experience range loss in cold weather. I don't care if it's a Tesla, and I don't care if it's a Rivian. I don't care what it is. You're going to have range loss when it's cold outside. Now, I experienced between 5% and 7% range loss in terms of battery. So like it would say that I would arrive with 69% of my battery life, and I'd get there with 62%. And that to me is fairly acceptable. It's not that much of a problem. I like dealing a percentage of battery rather than looking at the miles, because the miles, oh my gosh, the miles are horrible. I drove 196 miles and used 100 extra miles of range. So used like 300 miles of range for 196 miles. And that to me that's getting a little sketch. So I very much prefer to look at the percentage of battery versus the actual miles used, because to me that seems a little bit more accurate and a little bit less stressful. But you are going to have range loss. That is a little bit of a problem, especially if you are going to be doing any distance. But it's not a problem if you are just driving around town. Now, I will say, if you have an EV, you should be charging at home. You should have a level 2 charger at home. You should be charging up to 80% every night. That gives you plenty of range during the day, even in cold weather, to do whatever you want, to go wherever you want. So just think about that, and just know that if you buy an EV, you're going to have range loss. And you have to do your research to figure out how much range loss that is, and if it's acceptable to you in your daily driving. Yeah. All right. So that is me. That is what I have to say about the Cadillac Lyriq. Overall, I really liked my experience with this vehicle. I think it's comfortable. I think it's fun to drive. I think it's great for the city. I think it's okay for a road trip as long as you aren't going that far or don't mind waiting for half an hour to charge up. But overall, I like this vehicle. I think Cadillac did a really great job with it. And if this is what the Lyriq looks like, I can't wait to see the Escalade IQ and the other things that Cadillac has to offer. So that's it. That's what I have to say. Thanks for sticking with me through this electric vehicle review, because I know you all love those from us on Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. But thanks if you got here. And I will see you down the road.